So do you guys remember that government grant controversy we were involved in a few months ago? Well, the government has now released their reports on the findings from the investigation. And don't worry, they have investigated themselves and found that they have done nothing wrong. So I think we're good. Turns out as long as they ignore all of my original complaints, everything's good. For those that haven't followed it, there is an old video back, but let me bring you up to speed real fast. So there was an issue with the government grant program in which the government had one company doing all the funding recommendations, administering the grant programs. Then that company also does grant writing services and auditing and a bunch of other financial services. We applied for grants. This company then reached out saying, we want to write your grants for you and other financial services and all that. And we think you would have a better chance of receiving grants if we did your grant writing. Like, look at us. We administer the grant programs. Don't you want to be with us since we administer the programs? This led to Edison Motors feeling pressured to sign up with this company because of the amount of power they had in the program through that conflict of interest that we thought. But then let's look at what they examined, and more importantly, what they did not examine. They did not examine the effectiveness of MNP's management of conflict of interest. Our big concern, we're like, wow, with all the conflict of interest, we feel super pressured and they could be using undue influence to influence funding to their own customers. Yeah, we're not gonna investigate that. We're also not gonna bring up the fact that we wrote that big funding recommendation back in 2017, 2018. Don't worry about that. And we're also not gonna look at any of the other grant programs. We're only gonna look at the one specific program that I used in as example, even though when I brought up the examples, there was many different programs that they managed within the government. Those other programs, they don't matter. Just this one specific one that was talked about. So to start with, one of the questions was MNP using their process of administrating and recommending grants to put unfair influence to their customers and clients? So to find this out, they asked customers, did MNP directly write your grant for the funding on this program? Everybody said no, including us, which I said no. They did not write the grant for that program. They used their influence in the program to pressure us into signing up. They did not write that. I said that. That did not need to be a question. That was never in doubt. They did not write our application, and I was clear on that. And it even says that, yeah, I didn't do that. This one I find interesting, though. Did MNP influence? We found no evidence that MNP influenced. 23 MNP clients submitted things, and 10 of them received funding. 23 applied, 10 received funding. Almost 50% of their clients got approved from grants that they administer. There was 151 applications, only 32 got approved, 10 came from MNP. So MNP had 23 of their clients apply, 10 got approved, so about 45% acceptance rate compared to the average acceptance rate, which was about 20%. So you're over twice as likely to get approved for these government grants that MNP administers if you were a client of MNP. But the government found no evidence at all in that, not suspicious. Apparently having over twice the success rate for your own clients compared to people that aren't your clients isn't any kind of evidence or not suspicious or conflict of interest. You guys decide on that one. The government also wants to blame some of this misunderstanding on incorrect instructions. So they said in the instructions that MNP decides it, but when they did the investigation, like MNP decides the first step, but MNP just really decides who moves on to the next step, and then it's the government's decision. So that was just misrepresented to make it look like MNP did the whole thing. So how would we ever think that MNP had total control? And it said that in the application. If you can't tell, I'm a little annoyed over this entire farce of a paper. But yeah, this was key to our decision to hire MNP. We felt like we had no choice to hire MNP because of the amount of power MNP said they had, and it said that they had all this power. So we decide the grants, we write the funding, we do funding recommendations, you got to sign on with us. And like that's what it said. But don't worry, that was wrong. It was written down wrong. Our bad, guys. Now, let's get on to a different topic that I brought up. It was the fact that they were using their influence to pressure us. Now, they said that they reached out to us just because they were searching for like-minded companies and they happened to find us. It was all organic. The fact that it happened, I think it was a week after we applied for the CVIP grant, total coincidence. They got policies where they don't interact. Although they found that in this investigation, that hadn't occurred. 170 staff, including outside of the grant administration, including staff who provided grant writing services, had access to the files of the people administering the grant. So the people who were doing grant writing services had access to the files of the people administering the grant. So that wasn't separate. There was a bunch of staff that were writing grants that could directly see the files of the people administering the grant. Like that's got to be a conflict of interest where they violated their own policy. But once again, nothing wrong. We asked them if they actually searched on that and like, did you use that thing you had access to? And they're like, no, we swear we didn't. We just found them naturally on Google around the same time. Total coinky dink. So what did we learn here? Did MMP write your CVIC application? Nobody said that. Yes, that was never in question. We never said that. Nobody said that. Should not have been a question. Here's one. 13 of 71 respondents said that they were or had been MMP clients. 13 of 71 respondents reported MMP provided advice or support. It was from the grant administration team answering questions. So 13 of 71 were clients. 13 of 71 got support from the grant administration team. But once again, that's probably a coincidence. And also, this is an account that takes people's word. They found here that 13 people said that they were clients. They did the investigation. Another 10 had lied about it. And when they looked, actually were clients of MMP. But once again, we can just take everybody's word here. And then you got this little statement they put out, actual versus perceived conflict of interest. It appears that someone has a position, in this case, a reasonable observer with all relevant facts would unlikely to perceive a conflict of interest. However, ARC and CVIC did not have all the relative information and facts. So why aren't people applying, getting the relative information to see whether there's a conflict of interest? It needs a government audit and investigation to get all the relevant facts by asking all these people, I guess. This one's interesting. They had no evidence that they influenced by improperly screening their own clients. Well, like, hypothetically, if you were to be doing something fishy, you would still make your client's thing look legit. Like, you wouldn't put a bad thing through and say, oh, we just proved it anyways. Like, but if you're guiding them through the application process, it would look legit. You would just give higher scores to your own. Once again, it brings back one of the original questions where they said influence. For more information on these grants, reach out to us. Don't reach out to the CVIC. Don't reach out to the government website. If you're a partner of ours, you've heard about these, reach out to us. We'll tell you what's going on. This is from the website that MMP deleted this website. Like, if nothing was suspicious, why would they have deleted this whole thing? At the end of the day, this isn't unexpected. We kind of figured they would do something like this, but I'm just disappointed because my concerns weren't addressed in this. My big concerns were, why does one company have so much power and influence? And we felt because of that power and influence, we had to sign up to that company. Why does that exist? That was our big issue with conflict of interest is, why does the government allow that conflict of interest? Like, I never accuse MMP of doing things wrong. I even said in a video, they probably didn't do anything illegal or find out that we could do anything illegal. But why is this allowed from the government? That one company can do everything from funding opportunities, administering grants, writing grants, auditing the government on government spending of these kind of programs. Why is that all one company? We could have 4 or 5 different companies. And I was hoping something would come away where the government would say, wow, that is a lot of power to one company. Why don't we split it up so that it's different companies doing different things so people like us and other businesses like ours don't feel pressured into signing up with these big companies for their crazy expensive fees. Like, that didn't happen. I think that's my biggest disappointment, is that the concerns I brought up weren't even addressed. How was it allowed to happen in the first place that you could even perceive these conflict of interest? And then to not investigate the conflict of interest and just narrow it to one scope. So I don't know what we expected. I'm disappointed, but that was the result of the paper. Once again, this is the name of the paper. If you want to read it for yourself, please inform your own opinion. This is just my opinion. But it sure seems like it was suspicious. It sure seems like there was conflict of interest. What we experienced was a definite pressure, and I'm giving my opinion. Go form your own. See if what you think is going on with the government of our spending of carbon tax and taxpayer money to all of these EV grant programs that are overmanaged like this is acceptable or not. In my opinion, no. Our tax money is being wasted, and this just seems wrong.